sometimes, the moment that changes your life forever doesn't come with a grand announcement. It sneaks in quietly, disguised as an ordinary Tuesday. The rain hammered the cracked sidewalks of Chicago's South Loop as the evening rush melted into the night. Inside a small, dimly lit café called the Marigold, the smell of espresso, wet jackets, and fading autumn leaves mingled in the air. It was the kind of place where students hunched over laptops and retirees nursed cappuccinos over thick novels. Layla Williams, dressed in a faded navy apron over jeans and sneakers, wiped down the espresso machine for the third time that hour. Her hair was pulled into a tight bun, loose strands curled stubbornly against the humidity. Beneath her practiced smile, exhaustion tugged at her bones. She'd pulled a full shift here after attending engineering classes at Chicago Tech University all morning. Tomorrow would be the same. And the day after that. As she reached for a fresh rag, the cafe's door chimed, a gust of wind scattering a few stray napkins across the floor. Layla looked up. A man stepped inside, shaking rain from his jacket. Nothing about him screamed celebrity. No bodyguards, no entourage. Just a plain black hoodie, jeans, and worn sneakers. His face was partially shadowed by the hood, but there was something about his presence, a weight, a density, that made Layla pause. "Table for one," she called from behind the counter. He gave a small nod. "Anywhere you like." The stranger chose a corner table by the window, away from the buzz of the other patrons. Layla grabbed a menu and headed over, her sneakers squeaking faintly against the wet floor. "Rough night out there, huh?" she said, offering a warm smile as she placed the menu down. "Yeah," the man answered, his voice low, slightly rough. "But sometimes, a storm clears the air." Layla chuckled politely, not sure what to make of that. "Anything I can start you with? Coffee? Tea?" "Just black coffee. Strong. Coming right up." She turned back toward the counter, noting absent-mindedly that he hadn't even opened the menu. As she prepped the coffee, she caught snippets of conversations floating around, someone arguing about rent prices, another debating the Bears' disastrous season. Normal, everyday noise. When she returned with the mug, the man was gazing out at the rain-streaked window, lost in thought. She set the coffee down gently, careful not to startle him. "Do you mind if I ask," he said, finally looking up, revealing piercing steel-blue eyes, "how much your electricity bill runs for a place like this?" Layla blinked. She couldn't help it, a short, startled laugh escaped her lips. Of all the things a customer could ask, the electricity bill? The man smiled slightly, as if he expected the reaction. "Sorry," Layla said quickly, embarrassed. "That's not exactly the usual small talk around here." "No offense taken," he said. "It's just habit. I'm curious about energy efficiency in older buildings." Still chuckling nervously, Layla replied, "Well, considering our wirings from the 70s and half our lights are practically antiques, I'd say we're probably not winning any awards." The man gave a real laugh then, deep, genuine. And for a moment, Layla forgot how tired she was. As she turned to check on another table, a woman sitting at the bar nudged her friend and whispered something. Layla caught a few words: "Tesla, looks like him, can't be." Her heart skipped. "No way." Layla dared a glance back at the man in the hoodie. Now that she really looked, the sharp jawline, the intense gaze, the subtle authority he carried without trying, the pieces clicked together like a well-oiled machine. Elon Musk. Sitting in her half-forgotten café. Drinking her mediocre black coffee. And she had laughed at him. Her hands trembled slightly as she wiped down a table. Oh my God. Had she just ruined her one in a billion chance to make a good impression? Meanwhile, Elon, because it had to be him, now that she saw it, sipped his coffee calmly, seemingly unfazed by the growing murmurs around the room. Layla ducked behind the counter, her heart pounding. Should she apologize? Should she pretend she still didn't know who he was? Should she run? Before she could decide, the bell over the door chimed again. A small group of men in expensive suits walked in, bringing the smell of cold rain and expensive cologne with them. They immediately spotted Elon and exchanged glances, the kind of look predators gave when they smelled opportunity. Layla watched as one of them, a stocky man with slicked back hair, whispered something to the others and made a beeline for Elon's table. She held her breath, bracing for the awkwardness to explode. Instead, Elon looked up, gave a brief polite smile, and turned his attention back to his coffee, effectively shutting down the approaching man without a word. Layla had never seen anyone deflect arrogance so gracefully. And somehow, despite everything, despite the rain, the fatigue, the ordinary weight of her impossible dreams, she smiled. Because maybe, just maybe, tonight wasn't going to be ordinary after all. The hum of conversation returned, but something had shifted in the Marigold's atmosphere. People tried not to stare, but the energy in the room crackled like static. Elon Musk, the name whispered from mouth to mouth, sat in their midst, drinking a simple cup of coffee. Layla ducked behind the counter, mentally kicking herself. What were the odds? The one night she didn't bother with eyeliner, the one night she wore her sneakers with a small rip at the toe, and she had laughed at the world's most famous innovator. She peered over the espresso machine, debating whether she should apologize. But when she caught Elon's eyes again, steady, unbothered, even kind, she realized something. He wasn't here for attention. He wasn't here to be fawned over. Maybe, just maybe, he was here because he wanted to be treated like a normal human being. Layla took a deep breath and decided to do the bravest thing she could think of. Treat him normally. A few minutes later, she returned to his table, balancing a small tray. "On the house," she said, setting down a thick slice of pumpkin bread and a small plate of butter. "Best thing we have. It'll make the storm feel less miserable." Elon looked surprised, pleasantly surprised. "Thank you," he said. Layla grinned. "You looked like you could use it." He chuckled softly, tearing off a piece of the bread. They fell into an easy silence, comfortable, almost absurdly ordinary. After a few bites, he asked, "Do you work here full-time?" Layla hesitated. "Sort of. I'm a student too. Engineering major. This pays the bills, barely." Elon's eyebrows lifted slightly, intrigued. "Engineering? What field?" "Energy systems," she replied, a touch of pride sneaking into her voice. "I'm obsessed with renewable energy. Grid infrastructure. Storage challenges. All that boring stuff no one likes talking about." He laughed, a genuine, warm sound that startled her. "Boring? That's the future," he said. "You're in the right fight." Layla's heart thumped hard. Hearing him say that, it was like the world tilted slightly in her favor for once. Encouraged, she added shyly, "Actually, I'm working on a side project right now, trying to design a modular battery system for apartment buildings. Something affordable. It's rough, but it's my dream." She immediately regretted blurting it out. Why would he care? He probably met people pitching ideas at him every day. But instead of brushing her off, Elon leaned forward slightly. "Tell me about it," he said. Layla blinked. You want to hear about my project?" I wouldn't have asked if I didn't. Over the next 20 minutes, Layla stumbled through an explanation of her idea, a scalable battery system that could connect to solar panels on city rooftops, providing backup power during outages. She pulled out a crumpled notebook from under the counter, diagrams, rough calculations, late-night scribbles, and showed it to him, feeling foolish. But Elon listened intently, asking sharp, precise questions no one else had ever bothered to ask. And when he smiled at one of her more daring ideas, Layla felt a rush of validation so profound it almost made her dizzy. "You're onto something," he said finally, handing back the notebook. "I am?" "You are. The cost curve on batteries is flattening, but decentralized storage is the real bottleneck now. Especially in urban grids." He paused, tapping the notebook lightly. "This is thinking in the right direction." Layla's hands trembled slightly as she tucked the notebook back under the counter. "I don't have the money, or the connections, Or, she blurted before stopping herself. None of those things matter at the beginning, Elon said, his voice calm but firm. What matters is that you see the problem differently. You think like a builder. Layla blinked, absorbing the words. No one had ever called her that before. Not even herself. Just then, the door chimed again. The group of suited men who had earlier hovered near Elon's table were now gathered in the far corner, talking animatedly. One of them, a balding man with a silver watch the size of a saucer, stood up and sauntered toward them. Layla stiffened. Mr. Musk, the man said smoothly, extending a card. Name's Raymond Klein. Venture capitalist. Always on the hunt for smart investments. Maybe we could grab a drink, chat about some opportunities? Elon gave him a polite but dismissive smile. Not tonight. Thanks. Raymond's smile tightened, but he retreated, tucking the card into Elon's napkin dispenser on the way out, a final petty move. Layla shot Elon a look, and to her relief, he laughed softly. You'd be surprised how often people try to sell me things while I'm eating. I'm guessing you don't get a lot of peace, Layla said. Not much, he admitted. That's why places like this are rare. He sipped his coffee, the rain blurring the world outside. You know, he added casually, I'm hosting a small event tomorrow evening. Kind of a workshop. Private group, young engineers, innovators. Would you be interested in coming? Layla nearly dropped the mug she was wiping. You're inviting me, she stammered. He smiled, a real one this time, warm and unguarded. Yeah. You've got something, Layla. Most people talk. You think. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. This wasn't just coffee anymore. This wasn't just surviving another double shift. This was a door, cracked open, into a world she had only dreamed about. The next day, Layla could barely focus in class. She tried to take notes during advanced systems and storage design, but her hands were trembling too much. Her professor's voice, usually a source of calm, buzzed in the background like static. The only words that echoed in her mind were, "You think like a builder." And, "Would you be interested in coming?" She'd barely slept. Not from nerves, from hope. A fragile, foolish, glorious hope. At 6:03 p.m., Layla stood in front of a tall glass building in downtown Chicago. A Tesla sedan had picked her up 30 minutes earlier, sent by someone named M. Levine from Tesla Futures Division. The invitation had arrived in her inbox with a simple subject line, "Workshop access, confirmed." She thought it might be a mistake. She read it 19 times. Now she was here, standing beneath the rotating light sculpture of the Tesla TechWorks satellite hub, a building she had only ever walked past on her way to the library. Inside, she expected a sleek, corporate lobby. Instead, the entire top floor was transformed. Tables were filled with prototypes, sketches, AI-assisted models, and rows of portable solar tech, battery components, and data dashboards. People, young, old, diverse, moved through the space like they'd all been dropped into the same dream. Layla hesitated by the elevator. "You're Layla, right?" a young woman asked, approaching with a badge and a calm, focused energy. "Yeah, how did you?" "Elon said you'd be the one looking both amazed and terrified," the woman smiled. "Come on, I'll walk you in. I'm Samira, used to be an intern like you're about to be." "Wait, intern?" Layla blinked. No one said anything about. Samira winked. He's always 2 steps ahead. Elon was already inside the room, wearing the same plain hoodie, surrounded by a half-circle of students and junior engineers. He didn't hold court like a CEO. He listened, asked questions, scribbled on notepads. He looked more like a math teacher than a billionaire. When Layla entered, he glanced up, gave her a slight nod, then went back to listening to a girl explain a concept involving carbon nanotube supercapacitors. Layla froze. This is real. This is happening. A man named Covey, maybe 30, handed her a tablet. "Your table's over there, Station C." You'll be paired with a couple others. Elon wants each group to look at a unique energy challenge and brainstorm disruptive solutions. 3 hours. Present before midnight. She stared at him. Tonight? This is the room, he said with a shrug. Ideas are born fast here. Layla joined her group, Luis, a PhD student from Mexico City, and Amy, an MIT undergrad on break from a climate simulation lab. Their task: how do we store renewable energy in low-income, high-density housing without displacing residents or driving up rent? Layla's heartbeat spiked. It was almost too aligned with her personal project. She rolled up her sleeves, cracked open her notebook, and dove in. They brainstormed, sketched, argued. Layla offered her modular battery sketch. Luis layered in thermal stability ideas. Amy suggested predictive algorithms for energy use spikes. They built a model in CAD, used the room's 3D printer for a mock casing. At 10:57 p.m., they were ready. At 11:12 p.m., Elon stood up. Let's see what you've got, he said to no one in particular, but everyone knew. One by one, each group presented. Ideas ranged from algae-based biobatteries to solar tiles made from recycled plastics. The air was electric with optimism. When it was Layla's turn, her hands shook, but her voice didn't. She explained how her design could be installed within walls, reducing footprint. How her cost model would allow leasing without increasing rent. How the battery cells could be recycled locally using heatless separation. Elon asked only one question. What's the failure point? Layla paused, then answered honestly. Right now, it's temperature regulation. We're still working out how to avoid thermal decay in poorly insulated buildings. He nodded. Good. You're not pitching a fantasy. You're building a real solution. After the final group presented, people milled about, collecting notebooks, exchanging contacts. Layla packed her tablet, preparing to leave. Layla, Elon said from behind her. She turned, nearly dropping her bag. You didn't just impress me tonight, he said. You made half this room think differently. That's rare. She flushed. Thank you. I didn't expect. Opportunity never comes the way you expect, he cut in gently. He handed her a plain folder. Inside was a letterhead, Tesla Energy Labs, Fellowship Division. The words offer of paid research fellowship leapt off the page. Full access to Tesla's innovation incubator. A stipend. Mentorship. And an option to defer school while working part-time on her idea. Layla looked up, eyes wide. This is... I don't even know what to say. Just promise me one thing, Elon said. What's that? When you succeed, not if, but when, you'll do the same for someone else. Someone no one's looking at yet. Layla sat on the edge of her bed that night, the Tesla Fellowship letter spread out beside her like a map to an entirely different universe. Outside her tiny apartment, the L train clattered by, and somewhere downstairs, someone was arguing about parking. Life, noisy and real, buzzed on as if everything hadn't just shifted beneath her feet. She stared at the offer. It was real. Her hands trembled because part of her was terrified. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if this is all some huge mistake? Then she remembered Elon's words. Opportunity never comes the way you expect. And, promise me you'll help someone else when it's your turn. Layla breathed deeply. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about every kid like her who grew up patching hand-me-down laptops together. Every girl told she wasn't the engineering type. Every dreamer drowning under bills and obligations, too exhausted most nights to believe anymore. She pulled out a battered notebook, the same one she had scribbled battery sketches into months ago during stolen lunch breaks. At the top of a fresh page, she wrote, "This is how it starts." Over the next weeks, Layla's life blurred into a whirlwind of motion. She moved into a modest dorm reserved for Tesla fellows near the TechWorks lab. Her days were filled with building, soldering circuits, running simulations, presenting findings to real scientists who actually listened. Some nights she crashed still wearing her lab coat. Some nights she stayed up till dawn rewriting a single schematic. Not every day was easy. Some days her models failed spectacularly. Some days the doubt crept back, whispering you don't belong here. But every time it did, she remembered the rain-soaked café, the black coffee, the unexpected smile. 6 months later, Layla stood in front of a packed auditorium at the Tesla Futures Showcase. On a polished stage, with trembling hands, she unveiled the first working prototype of her dream. The home cell project, an affordable, modular battery for city apartments. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't flashy. But it worked. And it had the potential to change how low-income families experienced power, autonomy, and resilience. When she finished her speech, the applause was so loud it felt like standing inside a thunderstorm. From the second row, Elon gave her a small, proud nod. But what mattered more was the tiny woman in the last row, wearing scrubs and sneakers, holding a hand-painted sign that said, "For every dreamer still waiting." Afterward, while reporters swarmed others, Layla slipped quietly outside. The Chicago wind was sharp and alive, tugging at her jacket. She smiled into it, thinking not just of herself, but of all the unseen, unheard voices she now carried forward. In her jacket pocket was a letter she had written earlier that day. It wasn't addressed yet. But she knew exactly what it would say. If you're reading this, it's because someone believes in you. Not because you are lucky, but because you are ready. Now go build what the world hasn't dared to imagine yet. Key lessons from Layla's journey. Dreams without action remain dreams. You build the future one brave decision at a time. The world doesn't need perfect people. It needs real people willing to show up imperfectly but persistently. Success is not about who notices you. It's about who you choose to lift when it's your turn. Opportunity rarely looks the way you expect. Sometimes, it arrives disguised as exhaustion, fear, or an ordinary cup of coffee. Your beginnings don't define your limits. Only your belief and your actions do. Recommended books to fuel your journey. Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance by Angela Duckworth. A powerful reminder that natural talent pales next to relentless effort and resilience. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. A masterclass in transforming adversity into advantage, using timeless lessons from ancient philosophy. Take your first step today. If Layla's story stirred something inside you, a spark of a forgotten dream, a whisper of a new beginning, don't let it fade. Pick up these books. Start sketching that idea. Write that email. Take the first terrifying, thrilling step. Because the world isn't changed by those who wait. It's changed by those who dare to believe that even the smallest spark can light 1,000 futures.